It is the one and only Savage Nation trying to wake you up from the stupor of the storm. Terrible situation out there. Obviously, people are, in trouble. But look, I could dwell on this for 2-3 hours. You've seen it. It's terrible. There's nothing we can do about it ourselves. If there's breaking news, I will give it to you. But I'm going to do a regular show because I would assume that of my regular listeners, even on the East Coast, you're not tuning in to hear about the storm because you got it all day long, and you'd rather hear a talk show. And I will do that on the Savage Nation. And you can call me, and you can while away the hours if you have electricity or batteries, foot power, hand power, nose power. And the phone number for the Savage Nation is 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282, anywhere in the United States of America. It is not toll-free in Benghazi. It is toll-free from Maine to San Diego. 855-400-SAVAGE. I spoke with a 30-year-old woman who's very intelligent today, and I don't talk politics with her because I know she's a liberal, and she's a relative, and close relative. And we talked about, dogs and food, and somehow the topic came up with the election, and she out of nowhere said why Obama will lose. Now, remember, she voted for him in 2008. Nowhere, spontaneous. She said Obama will lose, and I said, well, why? You voted for him in 2008. What's different? Here's what she said. He's done nothing, right? And the economy is still stalled. So that's interesting. So I said it's still basically bread and butter issues. I said, what about Libya? She said, what happened in Libya? Doesn't even know. Because of the quizzlings in the U.S. media, the American people don't even know that this president has abrogated his responsibilities as commander-in-chief and as president. But that's not the issue. So I said, well, what do you think of Romney? I looked very carefully at her face, and she had a pleasant look. She said, he's okay, but certainly not the old man McCain was, who I feared might die in office when I voted for Obama in 2008. That was an interesting response. Then she added, but I wish Republicans were not so against abortion and gay marriage, she said, because frankly, as a woman, I'm for gay marriage and I'm for abortion. I didn't say one word. But you know that that's the entire zeitgeist of this election. And you know that's why the Democrats have tried to tar and feather Romney with the abortion and gay marriage issue. So I let it go. But she said why Obama will lose, even though she voted for him in 2008. And the answer was simple. He's done nothing, and the economy is still stalled. Now, Hurricane Sandy, do you fear it may delay the election? This is a stunning development that appeared today. We know that Superstorm Sandy will have some kind of impact on the election. It could be an inconvenience for some or delays in the election. But you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you. So-called federal officials last week said that it's state officials' call whether to push back the election. Did you know that? Federal law mandates that presidential elections be held on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. But, listen to this. If a state, quote, has failed to make a choice on the day prescribed by law, the electors may be appointed on a subsequent day in such a manner as the legislature of such state may direct. So you have an emergency threatening to disrupt voting. And so under such conditions, the Federal Election Assistance Commission, that must be Acorn, a few goons with nightsticks. The Federal Election Assistance Commission, a few goons with nightsticks, advises the following. State election officials should, quote, review existing state law to determine if the governor has the power to cancel an election or designate alternative methods for distribution of ballots. Did you hear this? Alternative methods for distribution of ballots. So, for example, they can distribute ballots with food stamps. They could distribute ballots with government cheese. And so, therefore, FEMA now is dealing with the possibilities of delaying the election. A FEMA administrator, Craig Fugate, not to be confused with the Fugazi in the White House, but the FEMA administrator, Craig Fugate, not Fugazi, Craig Fugate said, we are anticipating that, based on the storm, there could be impacts that would linger into next week and have impacts on the federal election. That's what he said. Then he went on. He said, our chief counsel's been working on making sure that we have the proper guidance. In other words, they want to see if they can get away with stealing the election. He said, we're going through the regulatory policy and making sure all that's in place and we can support it, like they supported the ambassador in Benghazi. Now, there is some precedent for this. The New York City mayoral primary was delayed in September 2001 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. However, I do not know of a precedent for delaying a presidential election. But then again, we have no precedent of a man as incompetent as Obama, so we don't know what might happen. Hurricane Sandy, could it push back the election? Could it? I mean, I'll ask you the question, but what are we going to do? Just, you know what I'm saying? NPR now says there's an 8-point swing, putting Romney in the front. A new national public radio poll put out by the leftist NPR, which had President Obama leading Mitt Romney 51-44 4 weeks ago, now has Mitt Romney on top 48-47, with the Republican benefiting from his debate performances. That's interesting. Among critical independent voters, though, Romney won big, with 37% saying they're now more likely to choose him compared to 21% for Obama. So we don't know. You know, anything could happen, but it's an interesting fact. Who will the hurricane hurt more? Democrats or Republicans? This is the Savage Nation. The phone number is 1-855-400-SAVAGE. I'm finding my rhythm. It's later in the day. My audience is finding me. I'm in San Francisco, live and strong on KSFO.